Hey everyone. SoFi's loan portfolio continues to grow as the company makes excellent progress attracting new customers, making more loans. So in this video, I thought I'd provide an update, a need to know on what SoFi stock investors should know about the progress in its loan business in its most recent quarter. So let's get right into it. So the personal loan business maintained its strength in the quarter as we originated a record $3.7 billion in loans. This was up 51% from the 2.5 billion it made in the second quarter in 2022. Personal loans continues to grow faster than the rest of its business. Of course, we all know about SoFi's troubles in the student loan side of the business, which I'll get to a little bit later. But in the most recent quarter, personal loans made up 65.5% of all loans originated in the quarter. That was up from 59.4% in the same quarter the prior year. So clearly, personal loans are growing to become a greater percentage of the company's overall business, which has its pros and cons. The pros is that personal loans come with a higher yield, right? When you're making personal loans, the percentage that you're asking those borrowers to pay is higher than home loans or student loans. But the downside of that is these personal loans come with higher risk profiles, meaning if there is a downturn in the economy, the percentage of defaults are usually higher in personal loans. And also, if a borrower defaults on a personal loan, you can't really recoup anything, right? Compared to if you're defaulting on a home loan, the bank can go and foreclose on your home and take back some of that collateral, and so you're not losing out on all your money. So there's the pros and cons of SoFi's growth in personal loans. It gets a higher yield, a higher percentage borrowers have to pay, but the downside is that the risk of the business is growing if there should be a recession. Although I will say for SoFi's behalf, they focus on higher credit score borrowers, higher net worth borrowers. And so, comparatively, if there should be a recession, SoFi's loan portfolio should perform better than the typical personal loan portfolio because they focus on higher credit score borrowers, more responsible borrowers, but that remains to be seen. Okay. For now, the annualized net charge-off rate lowered quarter over quarter to just 2.94%. That's an excellent. That means 97% of folks are paying back their loans, which is really good for SoFi. I mentioned earlier student loans, they had another quarter of lower origination levels, but for the first time in 3 years, they actually have some clarity in the business as they look forward to the latter half of this year. But you know what? Unfortunately for SoFi, they've been saying this for so long because it seems like the government here in the US has a new update on student loans seemingly every 3 to 6 months. First, they're canceling, then they're not canceling, then they're modifying, then they're pausing, then they're adapting. And so there's been change after change after change after change to the federal government's policy surrounding student loans. So even though they made another update, the Supreme Court denied the ability for the federal government to cancel the student loans, so it's not going to be canceled. But then the federal government, the Biden administration, made other changes that could pause, extend, delay, and again and again and again. So there's really no certainty surrounding the student loan business for SoFi, unfortunately. And so we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. At this point, it would just be a bonus to the business if that just gets back on track. Because right now, SoFi is just seemingly just saying, all right, you know what? Let's focus on other parts of the business. And if this comes back, then great. If not, we've got other areas that we can grow. And speaking of other areas they can grow, home loans. They nearly tripled originations from the previous quarter. Tripled, right? So this was aided by the increased capacity and capabilities via the small acquisition they made at the beginning of the quarter. And I was hoping for this kind of progress coming from Sofi. They made an acquisition to bolster the home loan business because it wasn't just me that was noticing that personal loans were making a greater and greater percentage of the company's business. I don't think Sofi wants that longer term to be solely focused on personal loans. So hopefully the home loan side of the business will continue growing. Certainly it's not going to triple every quarter for the long term, but if it goes like this for a little while longer, just so that it can grow to be a bigger part of the business overall and add some diversification to the business, add some lower risk lending to the business, because home loans, remember, there's collateral, right? So if your borrower defaults, you can foreclose on the home and you don't lose too much money even if there's a default. So it's lower risk than personal loans. And then finally, they mentioned that 50% of their loans were funded by deposits. And that's really good news for Sofi because deposits are lower cost forms of funding, right? When people put money into Sofi from their direct deposit, from their checking balance, that Sofi has to pay lower cost of funds than if Sofi was to have to go out and borrow that money itself or have to go out and find investors to fund these loans. That would be a higher cost form of capital, right? So money coming from regular folks, day-to-day transactions, trying to put money in their accounts, spend money, pay bills, go to the store, eat at restaurants, receive their direct deposit from their company. That form of capital is lower cost, and that's good news for Sofi. But I think this pretty much covers the big items, the big need to know items from Sofi's loan originations in the quarter. This is what I think you should know at the very least from Sofi's most recent quarterly progress in their lending portfolio. But that's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.